L'Assemblée présente ses excuses.
The Assembly would like to present its apologies.
L'Assemblée va entendre l'allocution de...
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Tabaré Vázquez, President of the Eastern Republic of Uruguay. I request protocol to escort His Excellency.
J'ai le grand plaisir de souhaiter la bienvenue.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome His Excellency, the President of the Eastern Republic of Uruguay, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
Muy buenos días para todas.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. President, this morning. Madam President of the General Assembly of the United Nations, Maria Fernanda Espinosa, my dear Latin American compatriot, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, distinguished heads of state and government, national representatives and representatives of international bodies, ladies and gentlemen, all. I bring greetings from the people of the Eastern Republic of Uruguay in the southern cone of the American continent. Uruguay is a small country, but with strong democratic institutions, economic and social stability, clearly defined values and principles, and tangible progress at all levels. It is true that it is not, nor will it be, a perfect country. Indeed, are there any perfect countries? But it is a country that works modestly, day after day, in order to make progress without leaving any of its inhabitants behind, because that is what development is. It is a dynamic and multidimensional process for the well-being of each and every one and the prosperity of all. In the report published in January of 2018 by the World Economic Forum on Inclusive Development, Uruguay, my country, was placed as one of the 10 most inclusive emerging countries of the world, and it ranked second in Latin America, with efficient public policies that make it possible to translate economic growth into a reduction of inequality, promotion of social inclusion, and intergenerational equity. Notwithstanding, and we recognize this, there is yet much to be done. And in this regard, there is a specific issue which impacts a number of countries, and amongst those Uruguay, and I wish to refer to it briefly now, the criteria and the methodology used by the Organization for Cooperation and Development, and used to qualify development of countries based on per capita income. And from our modest point of view, it imposes severe injustice on some countries. As a result of this, Uruguay, like other countries in the region, since the year 2013, has been considered a high-income country, and as of this year, will no longer qualify for official aid, development aid. It is encouraging to us that our progress has been recognized, but the graduation to the new level is not one that we view in the same way for a fundamental reason, and that is because growth and development are linked, but they are not one and the same, as you know. Uruguay has enjoyed significant economic growth over the last 15 years, and that has made it possible for thousands of its inhabitants to emerge from poverty. And yet, structural gaps persist. Development in transition is not a random concept. It is the most complete expression to describe situations of countries like Uruguay, which are still on the path of development and still need cooperation which is rethought and reoriented to accompany them. Advancements have been recognized, true, but at the same time, it makes continuing more difficult. It's paradoxical. It seems as if we are punishing those who do things well. I hope that the criteria will be reviewed soon. Ladies and gentlemen, above and beyond what has been said in the past, we believe that the life of countries, not all is economic development and resource distribution. In Uruguay, we know, and we have advocated at both the international and national level, for an agenda that would work towards fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals approved by this very Assembly in the context of Agenda 2030, with special emphasis placed on the transformation of energy and moving it towards renewable sources and the adaptation to the proven phenomenon of climate change, which we are all experiencing, and to advance with the irrevocable responsibility of protecting the environment. And as you know, fighting for the health of our people, which is the fight for life. And that is the main human right which all inhabitants of this planet enjoy. Consequently, we have implemented strict control policies for tobacco consumption and to prevent non-communicable diseases, which is one of the worst for our people. Above and beyond active participation at the international level by, for example, co-chairing the high-level Commission on Non-Communicable Diseases of the WHO and welcoming the World Conference on Non-Communicable Diseases in October of 2017, where the Montevideo Roadmap for 2018-2030 was approved. And in this roadmap, it reaffirmed a commitment to bold action in order to reduce by 1/3 mortality, premature mortality due to these diseases. And yet, there is so much yet to be done. There is much to be done to combat tobacco, which kills more than 7 million inhabitants of the world every year, much more than were killed by the two wars of the 20th century. And that's why we would invite all countries of the world to implement measures set forth by the World Health Organization to combat this scourge. This and other elements, such as the Digital Universal Agenda, and here just like to reference two plans, the Ceibal plan and the Ibaribita plan, and for reasons of time I cannot enumerate them all here, but they reflect the fact that a small and modest country which trusts in itself can move forward in a specific direction, and that direction is nothing less than improving the quality of life of all of its people, without discrimination of any type. Now, Uruguay is also in its region and in the world. And in this regard, we reaffirm our historic commitment to an international system which is more participatory, fair, balanced, and multipolar, as reflected in the basic principles of our foreign policy, adopted by my country for decades now. Some examples would include, first, the commitment to peacekeeping, disarmament, and international security, as well as our participation, the participation of our armed forces in peacekeeping operations. Second, firm rejection by our country of terrorism, organized crime, and any type of violence or discrimination, which unfortunately abounds in the world. Third, the support of peaceful solution of disputes and sovereign equality of all states, regardless of their sizes or the number of people inhabiting them. 4, unrestricted attachment and respect of international law, which is the best guarantee for the sovereignty of people and their ability to live together peacefully. Our unwavering commitment to the promotion and protection of human rights, of all human rights. 6, adherence to substantive precepts such as the non-interference in the internal affairs of other states, respect of sovereignty, and self-determination of peoples. 7, promotion of multilateralism in all of its dimensions, political, economic, cultural, etc., as the best way of tackling global challenges to humanity. In a turbulent international context, today we see the world almost as if it were an insane asylum run by the insane. In this type of world, we must emphasize our values and our principles. In this context, we call upon all of us to work together in a committed way to finance and modernize the international system. These are not mere words. Rather, in practice, we have worked intensely as non-permanent members of the Security Council over the course of 2016 and 2017, and now we are following suit in the Economic and Social Council, and it is our proposal to put forth our candidature to the Human Rights Council for the years 2019 to 2021. Uruguay's vocation is pacifist, based on solidarity and committed to world peace and security. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished friends, from this rostrum, we can speak of an infinite number of topics of interest to all humanity. And yet we have elected one which we humbly understand as a priority for all of us. And here I am speaking of the environment and the consequences of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the crisis we are undergoing at a world level needs to be decisively addressed by the leaders of each and every nation represented here. It is everyone's fight. It is the fight for life. And we exhort and urge the most powerful world leaders to respect international agreements to protect the environment and to avoid the harm that are suffered by the most vulnerable peoples of the world. We must take measures proactively to protect all peoples of the world, especially the most poor who are the worst punished. This world itself is also suffering. It suffers as if it were a living human being due to the various risk factors which are destroying it little by little. Day after day, this world, which is our only home, is the only home for us and for future generations, is a home suffering from wars, from industrial greed for profits, which is killing people such as the tobacco industry, with no consideration for the environment, no consideration for pollution or for the consequences of unchecked consumption. And the way in which we conduct ourselves has a direct impact on our health. It is also true that it is the duty of states to fight for the life of its inhabitants. It's a duty for all of us who live on this planet to fight for the place where we live. This is the case of the Paris Accords of 2015 in the context of the Convention for Climate Change in place since 1994. It is the best possible hope for survival and global security, and it is a fundamental commitment to fulfilling the Agenda 2030 as we ratified with our commitment to this agreement. And again, it's the powerful leaders of the countries of this world have a duty to respect their commitments to these agreements. These agreements are signed in order to be complied with. We also add our call to all those who have called for states who have not yet ratified to do so as soon as possible. In this area, as in so many areas of life, one does not necessarily need to rush, but one should not arrive late either. There is not much time left for mankind to contemplate these necessary agreements in order to protect the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we are convinced that the United Nations system is the best opportunity for humanity to confidently and optimistically address the problems of today and tomorrow. Let us act accordingly. In this common endeavor, we are all necessary. You can count on us, as we know you can count on all of you. Thank you.
Au nom de l'Assemblée Générale,
On behalf of the General Assembly, I would like to thank the President of the Eastern Republic of Uruguay for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we bid farewell to the head of state.